Hey everybody, welcome to Go Bold. My name is Jody Atariawala and I'm your host. And we are coming to you from Canadian Forces Base Esquimalt in British Columbia, and we are on Sea Jetty here at the base. Behind me is His Majesty's Canadian ship, Max Bernays. And HMCS Max Bernays is a Harry DeWolf-class Arctic and offshore patrol vessel, and it is the newest ship in Canada's Pacific Fleet. The Harry DeWolf-class is a multi-role vessel. It is optimized for operations in the Arctic, but as the name denotes, it can do offshore patrol all around the world. So in this episode, we are going to get a really detailed tour of the ship. And so I hope you get a good appreciation for this ship in this class and what it can offer to the Royal Canadian Navy. So welcome everybody to Go Bold, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Commodore Maser, talk to me about the significance of the Harry DeWolf-class ship and the fact that now this is a new type of vessel on the Pacific.
It's multifaceted for sure. The Canadian Pacific Fleet has 5 frigates in it, so 5 large surface combatants. This is not a combatant, it's a patrol vessel, but it's an armed patrol vessel, and this gives us a 6th hull that we can go out and do various operations. And a big thing our Navy does is support sovereignty and patrolling and constabulatory roles that require armed presence, whether it's in our Arctic, in the Pacific, or anywhere else the government determines that Canada's interests require that kind of presence, and this gives us a significant new capacity. The inherent nature of going up to the Arctic means that they have to have extreme range. We want minimum crew on board for supportability, and this vessel will bring that capacity. So whether we use it in the Arctic, whether we use it in the Pacific, down in the south, it doesn't really matter, but it brings a capacity to put people to sea, to have Canadian presence in waters that we haven't been able to get to, or that we're struggling to get to with only 5 frigates. So it's a very important day. But you can see it throughout the ship as they're starting to personalize and give the ship personality. But Max Bernays was a World War hero who was the coxswain on board HMCS Assiniboine, saw action against a U-boat. The U-boat was forced to surface and got into a gun engagement, and actually Max Bernays in the wheelhouse on the ship came under fire. There was fire raging around, smoke. He got all the other people out of the wheelhouse to safety. He stayed on the ship, answering the bridge conning orders until they were able to actually take out the submarine by ramming, and so that's why he's been recognized with medals of gallantry and why he was named. The ship was named after. These vessels were not designed as heavy icebreakers, and we don't call them icebreakers necessarily, but they're capable of breaking a significant amount of ice. They were designed to break about 1 meter of ice at 3 knots. We've seen them break almost 2 meters of ice on regular occasion, first-year sea ice, not multi-year ice. But right now, the Northwest Passage is clogged with multi-year ice and very heavy ice conditions, and so the vessel wasn't designed to do that. So initially, if it would have been delivered earlier, or if it would have been delivered later, my preference was not to deliver it later, get it on this coast, get it ready for RIMPAC and other things, instead of delaying to do a Northwest Passage. But right now, the plan is to send it up into the Arctic this summer. And I think you're just going to see the capability grow. I explained to the U.S. Coast Guard in San Francisco that these are like a utility pickup truck. They have certain inherent capability, but their real capability is that you can put almost anything you want on these vessels and modify for what you need. And so whether that's humanitarian aid, disaster relief, whether that's working with the Rangers, whether it's working up north, in RIMPAC we're actually putting surgical teams on board and exploring HADR, and we're going to be operating with helicopters off the flight deck, not embarked, but being able to land and support in the HADR role at this point. But you're just going to see more and more capability added to this ship over time that we didn't really realize 10 years ago that we might have needed in this era of global competition and great power competition, but it's just going to expand over time.
Hi Jody, welcome to HMCS Max Bernays, new warship to the west coast here, Arctic Offshore Patrol ship. We have some scaffolding you'll notice, and tents located throughout the ship. We are in a short work period, so we're getting a lot of maintenance done in preparation for us to go to sea, which is quite normal, and we're getting ready for our next phase of our program. What I plan to do is I'm going to give you a tour of our ship. We're going to start down at the quarterdeck, and we're going to make our way up to the bridge. So this is the quarterdeck on HMCS Max Bernays. To the left of me here You have the LCVP, which is a landing craft on board. Its max speed is 20 knots. It's designed to take on board extra equipment that we can use for landing on a beach and doing beach landings. You'll see that forward of that is the vehicle bay, which we'll go to later to check out where we can place our vehicles. But in theory, we can place a truck in the vehicle bay and then lift that truck onto the LCVP and then land it ashore.
And Steve, our viewers might be wondering that this is a relatively new ship, yet there's a lot of work going on, as we can see in the background. Explain that a little bit so people don't get a misunderstanding of what's happening here.
So right now we're in a short work period, and during this short work period, all the work and maintenance gets done, so the ship's ready to proceed to sea. We're sailing in 2 weeks' time, so we're in that final throes where we're trying to get the ship ready to go, and that's why you see all these people dragging hoses and stuff. When we get up to the flight deck, you'll see even more. Yeah, so going on to the back to the quarterdeck here, we've got 3 payload positions. So you have to understand we're a constabulary vessel. So our strength and power comes through what we can bring in terms of utility. So what a payload position is a spot on the deck where we can strap some piece of equipment, and with that equipment we can use it for some sort of a function. So for example, we could put some Hatter sea containers on board, or we could put on a towed array system on the back, or we could put on a side scan sonar, or maybe even a bottom object inspection vehicle, extra cabins for people to sleep in. So the payload positions are really used for multi-purpose, and it makes us very modular. And so on the quarterdeck here, we have 3 spots. We also have 2 spots on 2 or 3 spots on the flight deck. So there's one here, one in the middle, and then one on the other side of the LCVP.
And to facilitate getting things on and off this ship, we are standing right next to a large crane.
Yes, and so you can see the crane. We've actually have it hanging off the stern of the ship right now. That's our large 20-ton crane. It's designed to launch our LCVP. We can launch it while we're at anchor or alongside in calm sea states. It can also be used to reach over onto the jetty so that we can, instead of having to have crane support ashore, we have our own crane that can service to our quarterdeck and possibly even our flight deck, some parts of the after section, depending on what the load is.
It's smart design, right? It allows you to be independent and hopefully just more resilient
and you'll notice that with a lot of things on the AOPS class is that we're designed to be independent and operate for long periods of time without support. Our fuel consumption rate is actually much lower than what our frigates is, so we have that sustainment capability. Our fridges are larger, so that we don't have to resupply as frequently. And if you think of the design intent of this platform to operate up in the Arctic, it works really well because there is no place to come alongside to fuel, to re-ration. We really have to, what we bring up is what we have to use, and rely very little on the communities that are up there because they're just not large enough to support a ship of this size.
Right. Awesome. So this is quite a critical deck that allows you to have, in essence, modular capability and the ability to configure the ship depending on the type of mission that you're tasked with.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And if you want, we could go check out the vehicle bay because that's a cool little spot. It's going to be, we stored a lot of stuff in there, but
yeah,
so we can take a look where the trucks would go.
I'll follow on.
Just watch your step there.
Perfect.
You know what? We'll go through here. So right now we're not actually storing a vehicle in here. We're using it more for like motors and supply because we're bringing up north with us a Mamba, so an additional rib which is not normally brought up on this class. But in theory, what you could fit in here is one truck, an ATV, and a snowmobile. Our ship has been assigned a truck, so if we do need to bring it on board, we can just crane it on board and then drive it in here.
Right on. Yeah, so again, just allows you to be flexible on the mission.
Absolutely, and this is not this is the first time any of our ships really have had this capability to be able to bring actual vehicles on board. The frigates don't have a vehicle base, so this is something entirely new to the RCN.
Lovely,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
So once again, this is the third payload position back aft. You'll see the 3-ton crane, which we have as well. And that 3-ton crane is designed there for use with that payload. What we'll be using it for is we'll be placing a small black mamba, which is a rib with an inflatable bottom that we can use for beach landings, which really helps up north because a lot of the places you want to get to, you have to beach a boat. You can beach with this thing, the LCVP, the landing craft as well, but it's a lot larger and takes it's a lot more effort to launch. So if we were to do something smaller, we would just use our Mamba that we're bringing up.
Right. Cool.
Right, we can move forward through the. Hopefully, it's quieter indoors.
Steve, what part of the ship are we on right now as we come off of the quarterdeck?
So this is one deck. Most of our engineering spaces are directly below us.
Okay.
The types of events that go on here, so we have the MCR, the machinery control room. We also have the crew's cafeteria down here and the master sailor and below's mess. So it's a bit of a multi-purpose deck. There's living spaces, access to the lower decks, and the machinery control MCR administrative offices. Additionally, we have what's called the embarked forces accommodation here. So our ship's crew is 65. We can take that many people in our normal accommodations, but if we want to be mission fit for having a helicopter, a MIO, so a Maritime Interdiction Operations team on board, we could put them in this 20-person mess here. And so it's called the embarked forces. So we're not going to go in there because it's there's a lot of people living in there right now. But the idea is that if you bring the mission that you want, the mission set skills that you have on board in order to conduct the mission. So for us, for RIMPAC, we're bringing a medical surgical team on board. And so they'll be living in here and supporting the sick bay with surgical capacity.
Awesome. Can we take a quick just peek in there?
Yeah,
like we
sure.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just configured for all the different people that you might need as needed.
Exactly.
Right on.
All right, so you can talk about, this is what I was talking about earlier. So this is an HV space. So high voltage. This differentiates us a lot from other platforms because it's a new security or safety measure that we have because the ship is run by 4 diesel generators which provide a lot of power, which means that we need to be concerned about arcing. Arcing is when electricity jumps from one spot to the other, and because of the voltage that's going through these things, we could get arc flashes, which is very dangerous. So we try to limit the people that enter these spaces, and everybody on board has to take the HV aware course in order to even just come on board and work, including the contractors and anybody who from the ship's company. So down below us are some of the is the after machinery room, and you'll know it's an HV space based off of the taping marks on the outside of the door.
Right, and how many of these high voltage spaces are on this ship in relation to, if you were to say maybe percentage or whatever, are there many of these spaces that you have to be aware of, or just kind of a few?
On 2 deck and below, it's probably about 2/3 of the ship.
Okay.
So there are some spaces on 2 deck and below which are not, but the majority of them are HV spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
So now let's see if we can get you into the MCR. They're actually doing a basin trial right now.
Sure.
Basin trial being testing the propulsion of the ship while we're alongside to prove mechanically that we're able to operate at sea.
Okay.
So they are busy in here, so
Sure.
we'll just try to.
For sure. Yeah.
But are we able to step in and just watch?
Yeah. The language might fly a bit, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. You guys do what you need to. So So right now we're in the MCR. They're conducting a basin trial on board, and what we're really trying to prove is that our propulsion system is able to be functional, so that when we go to sea, we don't have any hiccups. This is a pretty standard operating procedure for ships in preparation. It's usually happens towards the end of your short work period.
And so here in the machine control room, the MCR, this is essentially where you control most of the ship's electrical, or I guess machine functions, right?
Yeah.
And so how does this ship differ from perhaps other ships in the Royal Canadian Navy in terms of the way that it's the propulsion?
So the difference with this MCR compared to other machinery control rooms is we can theoretically operate this with nobody crewing this position. It's because throughout the ship there are stations which the engineer and watchkeeper can monitor, and so it's a lot more remote than what our other ships are. We also have our up forward here our battle damage control system, so we can monitor DC and firefighting responses.
Okay, excellent. And we'll just take a quick peek.
Absolutely.
Peek back there.
So like right now, it's ready to go all started. This should disengage shortly after firing up. Yep, it should stay disengaged. So right now, this is going like that. Waiting for it to like see. All the auxiliary fans are running.
All right, moving on.
Busy days.
Very busy.
The HVP actually stands for.
All right. So this here is the crew cafeteria, which differentiates from the frigates, because we don't actually have what's called the crew's cafeteria on board, like a all-purpose type mess. So everybody on board will come here and eat, unlike in the MCDs or the frigates where you eat in your respective mess. It enables the cooks to be able to serve from a steam line, which is inside of the crew's cafeteria. And it's actually quite well laid out and designed, and I think it's probably going to be the way of the future for RCN ships as new ships get rolled out. I think other navies are doing the same thing as well.
Yeah, it just kind of centralizes everything in one spot, right?
Exactly, and the lounges still exist, so there's still a wardroom, chiefs and POs mess, and a junior ranks mess. It's just the function of eating is now all co-located.
Right. And how do you feel about that, Steve? Because previously, there's a hierarchy where the officers kind of eat together, et cetera, et cetera. This is kind of a more of an inclusive kind of method. Yep. What are your thoughts?
So you know what? I think it's a positive step forward. With the removal of stewards, that function of, especially on the frigates, of serving in the wardroom no longer exists, and so we can reduce our crew size in order to serve everybody all together, and so functionally it makes sense. And as long as people are mature about it, we come in here just for function of eating, and it's a good time just to get to know your crew better. And the smaller crew size, that's actually quite nice and handy, because then you get to know your people and you can support them better, because who knows what conversations will take place in here, and some of them are very positive and beneficial to the ship's morale, to be honest. Yeah.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. And then obviously, for the galley staff, this just makes it easier for them to do their job as well.
Absolutely, and even for the mollies as well. So let me go show you how we got it set up back here. But
okay.
All right, so this is where we do our washing of our dishes, and it sounds funny, but we actually have it set up very well. It's very well designed, so that during meal hours, at the end of the meal hours, the wardroom, the different departments are segregated per day. So like let's say the MSC department's on Wednesdays, the wardroom's on Thursdays, and so on and so forth. And so you come in here, and there's always somebody from the ship's company who just volunteers and gets in here and does the dishes. We've got a dishwasher which is set up just so that as soon as the dishes come in, you just put it into the sanitizer, rinse it off. It's all laid out really well, easy to clean, easy to maintain, and makes the handling of cleanup really easy.
10, 1, 2, 3, Q1, 10 notes.
And it's obviously configured right. So as you eat and you come out, you drop your dishes off there and carry on.
Absolutely, you can really tell like the design there wasn't for the frigates.
Right.
Like it's so much more difficult just to do those sorts of functions of just cleaning the dishes because there's not a lot of space. They didn't take into consideration that now that with the stewards gone, all the cleanup will have to happen in the wardroom servery, so it's not really laid out and designed well for that. The space is there. It makes it really efficient.
Right on.
Yeah.
Great.
So the galley is actually located through here. See if I can get a quick picture of the galley. So it's quite a large galley. Once again, the layout is very efficient for the cooks. But the bigger thing is that all of our fridges and stores are located right there. So instead of on other classes of the ship where the fridges and stores are very far away from where the galley is or down different decks, here, like you see, they just walked into one of the fridges. They're all right there. So it makes storing the ship really easy. It also makes getting all the necessary rations for cooking much easier as well.
Right.
So you don't need like a bunch of the ship's company to come and support that stuff.
Sure.
So we'll walk through here. Sorry about the gash on the deck.
No.
So again, more fruit and vegetable cold stores.
Right.
Are we able to open one of the fridges to
Yeah,
take
just
a look?
really make sure you shut them so they,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a look.
Yeah, they don't like swing shut. If you don't push it all the way, it won't shut.
Oh, okay. So once again, sustainability is huge on this ship. So our fridges are almost oversized,
Right.
so that we can have a lot of rations on board in order to support being at sea for long periods of time.
And it serves two purposes, I guess, Steve. Like one is that obviously you need to feed the crew, right?
Yeah.
But then the other aspect is that this ship could do a mission like humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, HADR. And so in that case, you need to be able to help support people. And if you bring additional people on, you need to be able to feed them.
Absolutely.
So, it seems like there's been a lot of thought that's gone into this.
Totally. All right, so this is our forward section base here. This is where we will do a lot of our damage control support. So people will come here, get dressed in bunker gear, which is located over here, and be able to be briefed by the attack team, the damage control section base leader, who's in this room here, and then they go off to the fire and either act as a boundary or attack team.
Right, and you remember what it's like to be a boundary.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. So from real world experience, it wasn't a training event that you experienced many years ago in your early days in being in the Navy, but a place like this is really, really important for just the safety of the ship and being able to respond to emergencies.
Absolutely. One of the big things that I noticed, because I always check when I come on board a new class of ship after being on Protector, is what are their dragger refill stations? Because because we ran into that problem on Protector where the ship wasn't originally designed for draggers, so they had to install these refill stations on board. But in particular, you always need to ensure that there's power to them. And so what happens when all your power goes down? Well, this ship has 4 DGs, which could provide power. And the engine
DGs
spaces are separate. Diesel generators
Right. Yep.
are separated. And then on top of that, there's an emergency harbor diesel generator as well, which can provide power to this. So there's multiple steps of redundancy, as opposed to Protector, where except for one generator, were located in the engine room. And when we lost the engine room, we lost all power. And so we had to use our emergency diesel generator, which obviously malfunctioned.
Right. Right.
And we had to bring on generators on board from other ships in order to support powering these things, because they take a lot of power, and then which would then in turn fill up the air bottles for sustaining a long-term fire and be able to keep fighting in that respect.
Right. And just for clarification for our viewers, when we're talking about Protector, we are referencing the old Protector, which has long since been decommissioned.
Yes.
Because there's a new Protector on the way.
Yes.
And so
This year.
Yeah, this year. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
All right, we'll head up a deck now.
Okay. So we are going now to
To 01 deck.
01 deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to look at the...
Ah, yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so we'll walk forward here. So this is where the master sailors and below have most of their cabins.
Okay.
Nice thing about this class of ship is that these cabins actually all have heads and wash places in them. In addition, there's more wash places over here. So they really thought out the living situation on board this class of ship.
Right. Oh wow. So
1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, test out.
so all individual as opposed to like a communal thing, which was kind of in the past.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that works better now that we have a lot more women on board ships, because like with individualistic heads and wash places like the MCDVs, it allows for us not having to be as worried about where our living quarters are for splitting them between male and female.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
This is the forecastle.
Ah, right.
So one of the weird things about this ship is that our forecastle is actually enclosed. Most ships are open air. So all of our seamanship for anchoring or for coming alongside is located here. And all the working cables have to be located inside. Additionally, on this space, we have our ammunition magazines for the 25mm and for pyrotechnics, which are located just one just there and one on the other side of this bulkhead here.
And Steve, what is the purpose of having this forecastle enclosed as opposed to other types of ships?
So when you're working up in the Arctic, it gets real cold.
Right.
And because it gets so cold, we've enclosed this forecastle so that the working equipment can remain de-iced, and the people. Sorry, the equipment here can remain de-iced, and the people can work on the upper deck here in relative warmth.
Right.
It's still not as you can see. There's lots of holes, so it won't be extremely warm up here, but it's not going to be that -30 with frozen sea ice all over the forecastle.
And wind chill. Right?
Yeah, and wind chill. Yeah.
Right.
That porthole here, which is open, is actually, and this one over here, is designed for running cables through. So if we need to run cables up here, we can do it from ashore. Also, you'll notice here is a little crane.
Oh, right.
So this crane can be extended out onto the jetty and can be used to pick up rations. And so we can bring rations on board here, or whatever stores we need, and be able to distribute them throughout the ship.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I think some of the viewers that are aware of some of the teething problems that the AOPS has had might be aware that there was an issue of water collecting in this space. Mm-hmm. It's no secret to anybody. So, but there has been some solutions to work around that. maybe you could just explain the issue and some of the resolution for
Yes, so you're probably referring to that National Post article, which you saw a huge bunch of flooding water all over the deck.
Right.
That is this space here. So a lot of people confuse that for an interior space.
Right.
This is an exterior space.
Right.
And so like, although flooding is never good,
Sure.
what was happening was some of the water was ingressing through some of the anchor hole, not holes, but I forget the word, but anchor, where the anchor goes out,
Sure.
ingressing in, causing a bit of flooding. Wasn't the design intent. They needed to release the water. So I believe that has been rectified, or is being rectified on all the Harry DeWolf-class ships.
Right.
It shouldn't be a problem anymore, but that was one of the growing pains. When you have a new ship, you're going to have issues, and this was one of them. And although it's not good for the equipment here, our support networks ashore are working on it, and we're fixing all those problems.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like you said, it's a brand new ship, a new class of ship, and sometimes you don't foresee problems, and sometimes they're unanticipated that just now you got to resolve, and this was one of them. So yep, no, thank you for that clarification, because I think a lot of people perhaps were.
10, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, test out.
I think a lot of people were perhaps thinking that it was inside the ship, and but as you said, this is actually technically outside of the ship. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Is this one? Yes, perfect. Hello. All right, come on in. You're not doing any work in here, are you? Or?
No, I'm not working here.
Okay, fair enough. We're just going to take this space for a moment here. This is the boarding party ready room. One of the differences that this class has, and what makes this very versatile. So in here, if we were to embark a boarding team, they would be able to store their ammunition. The small arms lockers just around the corner, and they can get dressed and ready here. So on the frigates and MCDVs, which are smaller in terms of like space for MIO, MIO was a bit of an afterthought because they're more of a warfighting platform. This platform had a lot of like those like just the threshold before all-out war in mind when they were designing it. And so this is one of those really those utility spaces that we have on board. So all the lockers here, the teams can store all their equipment. They have a briefing TV right here, and they have all these benches here where they can sit and get briefed by their team leader. And then the most handy thing is that once they're done their brief, they can just walk out here, and voila, it's not embarked. But our MRB would be located right here.
And the MRB
is a rib.
Right.
So it's our multi-purpose rib, which can be launched by the crane right here. The other nice thing about this class is that we're the first ship which can launch with up to 8 people in it. All the other ships can launch only with 2. And so you can imagine when you want to bring an entire boarding party on the other classes of ship, you gotta like launch with 2, and then you gotta put out your ladder. And then you got to have people walk down that ladder, and it's a very slow process. Here, it's everybody gets in, launch, boats away, and so it's amazing in terms of a boarding capability, and for NTOG especially, to be able to have a team right there walk out and be launched much quicker than what other platforms can do, because it's part of the design concept.
Again, thought out, right? Like briefing room right out to where you need to board a boat and deploy without having all that cumbersome kind of loading up and moving out.
Yeah. I'll just kind of put a plug in for this here. So a lot of people ask, why is HMCS Assiniboine here? Max Bernays was the coxswain of HMCS Assiniboine during World War II, and he's the namesake of our ship. The story kind of goes as follows. World War II, there's a U-boat that's out there.
Test 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, test
Max Bernays and HMCS Assiniboine is trying to fight this U-boat. They get into a battle. The U-boat has to surface. The Assiniboine is firing at it, but it's below the guns of the ship. Back in those days, when U-boats surfaced, they actually had a gun on top, so they were firing back at Assiniboine. They actually fired and hit the entire bridge, and the bridge was on fire, and there were still bullets coming in. He grabs the helm. Takes, I think, 127 conning orders from Commander John Stubbs, or something along those lines, and drives the ship. And they go and they ram the U-boat, which eventually sinks it. And then they have to recover all the prisoners that had to evacuate the sub. And so he, because of his actions, we've chosen his name as the namesake of this ship.
Very fitting. Very fitting.
And this is the battle board for HMCS Assiniboine, all the battles that it was in during World War II.
Never unprepared. Love it.
Our motto is actually undaunted by fire, because of the fire that was on the bridge while he was driving the ship.
Very cool.
Okay, let me see if I can get you in here.
Okay.
Okay, we're just going to take a quick tour into the sick bay. It's much larger than what's on a CPF, and there's a few things we could take a look at. All right, so this is one of our rooms here. We're actually embarking a surgical team on board for RIMPAC, and they'll be working this space with our physician's assistant.
Okay.
And this is where they're going to stage themselves out of. We're a level 1 facility, so our job is to essentially stabilize patients, if there are any, and then for evacuation. We're not equipped like an AOR or something like that,
right,
with more robust facilities, but we can do the same kind of thing that a frigate would be capable of.
Right. So essentially stabilize and get people out to further care.
Some storage space back there, and then we'll go to the other side as well.
123, 221,
This is our sick bay ward here.
Right. Okay.
Let me see if I can turn a light on for you.
Sure. Oh, great. So a couple of beds here. Is this the full extent of the sick bay?
There's also a washing bath. That's what we call it, sick bay bath. But
okay.
Here as well.
Right on. Yeah. Nice. Very modern and
perfect.
Perfect. Thanks.
All
right. So.
Thanks, Kim.
And now on to.
Yeah. So now we're going to continue moving aft.
Okay.
We're passing through some of the chiefs and POs messes here on our way to what I want to show you. The last thing on this deck is the gym.
All right.
So this is the purpose-fit gym on board. Most of the other classes of ships that we have, the gym was a bit of an afterthought. We try to fit them in the hangar. We've refitted some old spaces to be able to put equipment in. Here, it's completely designed for, intended for working out. It's got air conditioning. It's got a screen here, so if you want to put on a fitness class or something. Right. When the piping system comes in here, if we got music playing, because there's speakers all around, it dims the speakers so that you can listen to what the pipe is. Really well designed. We have more equipment as well because people love working out on board up in the hangar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right on. So this is quite a lovely space.
Yeah.
Dangerous. Oh, you didn't bring the patches down? I brought them here. Oh, did you already? Oh.
Yeah. So we'll go up to the flight deck next, but you'll get a good view of the quarterdeck from here.
Right. And there is that landing craft that we saw from the quarterdeck.
Yeah, you'll note there's also a crane on board there. There's cranes everywhere on this ship.
Yeah, and here's actually a really good view
Yeah.
of the larger crane. I guess the main crane.
The
for
20-ton
this.
crane.
The 20
Yep.
ton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
And there's another crane even right here, which comes across on this T-bar.
Okay.
And that's for lifting up and supporting operations with the LCVP.
Interesting.
So I'm gonna walk you up to the flight deck, and I just warn you now, that's tents everywhere because we're doing a lot of repairs on the flight deck. Our intention is to become the first AOPV with its a ship without air deck qualification to land helicopters. And so we're really pushing forward with this. And some of the work on the flight deck, some of the paint was peeling, and so we're just redoing the paint in order to make sure that everything's safe when helicopters want to land.
Awesome.
So this is the flight deck. It's very large compared to a frigate, so much more space. It does have tracks for RAST equipment. However, we're not fitted with the RAST currently. That being said, you don't really need a RAST until you bring an air department on board, and we're just not there yet. We're still working the kinks out to figure out, okay, how we're going to put an air deck, because there's a lot of equipment which we just need to test to make sure is good to go. And it's kind of like taking baby steps. You got to work with your ship without air deck first. Once you have that capability available, which is what we're working on, then you can move to the next step, which is bring a full air detachment on board and be able to do full-on air ops on board this platform.
Right.
It's actually part of one of our one of the items in True North Strong and Free, the new document which come out, is getting the AOPS capable of embarking air debts and working with a helicopter, and we're hoping to be a piece of that solution.
Right, and that's the our North Strong and Free. You're referencing the defense
Yes.
policy update.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So this does give a good sense of the size of the flight deck. It's quite large, and so the ultimate goal will be to support, I imagine, the Cyclone helicopter.
Absolutely. So the Cyclone helicopter, also the when we get it embarked, the UAV, because they're designing a specific AOPS UAV to be able to place on the ship. When it comes to being up in the Arctic, air surveillance becomes very important, especially when you're trying to navigate through ice. When you have the ice fields that are out there, you want to know which path the ship should go through in order to avoid the heaviest ice and be able to go through the more thin ice, or finding just open ocean. We do get charts provided to us by ice services, but there's nothing better than having a helicopter or an eye in the sky to get the latest and greatest detailed information.
Right.
There is no torpedo magazine on board this class, so we're not designed for underwater warfare purposes. This is more for HADR, casualty evac, ice surveillance, those sorts of functions.
Right. Right. Support. Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Up there, we'll go up there later, but that is the FDCR, the Flight Deck Control Room. Other people would know it as FLYCO, very similar purpose. There is no LSO shack here because the LSO is co-located in the FDCR with FLYCO.
Right. Okay.
We'll just head into the hangar right now. So this is the hangar. A little bit messy because we've been accumulating a lot of kit to prepare us for conducting helicopter operations. Things from chocks to lashings to you name it. We're getting ready. So we're doing the last stages of preparation in order to conduct these helo ops in a week and a half's time.
Okay.
Additionally, you got more workout equipment here. You'll notice around the top we have like a mezzanine deck, which is something that you wouldn't have on other classes of ship. It just enables work to go aloft on the helicopter easier, and gives you a different angle and perspective from up there. So you'll notice the hangar feels quite large, right?
Yeah.
Like, the thing is that we can't put a helicopter in here until we get the RAST available, or potentially some would say possibly a mule as well, like what we did on the former Protector. There was no tracks. We would just get the mule and drive it in here.
Right.
That's also theoretically possible, but I think the ultimate goal is to put on a RAST and then get the helicopter to get positioned inside the hangar.
Right. Makes sense.
Hey, yeah, we'll go for it. We've just been ranging our hoses for helicopter firefighting, which is why the hoses are all over the deck.
Master Sailor Lang, 2077. Master Sailor Lang.
This has got to be one of the busiest announcement ships I've been on in a long time.
And the other thing is the big beeping noise at the beginning. It's something I've now gotten used to, but it took a month or two. We don't have that on other ships, and yeah. All right, perfect. Nobody in here.
Perfect.
So another one of those multifunctional purpose spaces that we have. This is the ship's briefing room.
Okay.
The nice thing about this room is that we actually have some high side equipment which could get piped down here if we wanted to, so that we can give this space to, I don't know, teams that would need to work on a more classified level.
Sure.
We're not kitted out for that because we're not needing it, but it is possible. So it's one of those spaces which could be really used if we needed to function with another governmental department space. We'd give them this; they'd be able to have their own briefing space here.
Right. Cool. Again, really thought out and plenty of space to be able to do multiple missions. right?
Absolutely, yeah. I know you didn't get that. If you want to.
Right.
This. Oh yeah, we'll just walk around. So this is mostly office spaces here as we go around. I'll let you get a good angle of the forecastle from here as well. So just to get a different shot and angle.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
I can definitely see how this you would want this enclosed in the Arctic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it can get cold out there.
Yeah.
So one of those other things that we've been doing is we actually had to bring in a lot of our hoses to get recertified, and so you see one of our members here. He's just hooking up our hoses and getting it ready so that we can have all ready to go for when we go to sea on the 17th.
Perfect.
Another view of where the MRRB goes if you want.
Right, and that being the multi-role boat.
Yes.
Right. Perfect. Excellent.
So now entering 03 deck. This is mostly officers' flats, and the CO's cabin is up here as well.
Okay.
This is a good example of a cabin here. These cabins are mostly two people. Some are one person only. The huge thing we like to brag about is that we actually have a heads and wash places in our cabins. And so you can shower, use the heads, all in the same location, where, which is where your cabin is. And it's also your working station. So everybody has their own office as well.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, certainly a change from the older ships.
Yes. This is the wardroom. So this is the officers' mess on board. And this is where, when we had Princess Anne on board, where we actually had one of our fancy dinners with her.
Okay.
We also had Princess Anne. We gave her the CO's cabin,
Sure.
and she got to sleep there. And then all of her staff kind of took over all the officers' flats, and this is where her like headquarters was while she was on board, essentially.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And so, otherwise, this would typically be where you guys have your downtime. And
Yeah, absolutely. Officers' lounge, the downtime. This is where we hang out. We got the TV. You got behind you our bar, where we have beverages and coffee and whatever we need. Fortunately, our ice maker's out of order, but we'll fix that.
You'll fix it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lovely space.
Yeah, and natural light.
Right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
different from a frigate, isn't
Yes,
it?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me more of Protector, honestly, like because in our wardroom we had natural light as well, so
Right.
feel
This is-
at home here.
Yeah, yeah. So where are we heading to now?
All right, so we're heading up one deck to the I believe it's our foredeck now, and that's to the bridge.
To the bridge.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And actually, we'll stop by the multi-purpose operations space on the way.
Oh, great.
So I'll just ask you, I guess you can keep that phone on you, but if you have anything else, just put it in the little pockets here.
Sure.
So this is the multi-purpose operations space. This instead of an operations room like what a frigate would have, this is essentially our operations room.
Okay.
We call it an operations space because we don't actually do any warfighting from here, because it's all of our systems, like our 25 millimeter, are all operated from the bridge.
Okay. So then what would be the function then? Like what exactly would you be typically controlling here?
All right. So in here this is where we kind of like have all of our sensor feeds come to. So we have two CMS consoles, both work unclassified, and these are the consoles which will take all of our radar feeds, AIS feeds, all the information. We'll collate the information and they will be able to be fused together so we can see like a tactical picture of what's going on around us. We also have our secure feeds will come into this space as well for working on secure networks and classified networks. Okay. We also have the ability. So we have two spots here. One is for our is for what we call Sea Guard, which on a frigate would be called a track soup. And they're the ones that are always in here. They work with the officer of the watch in order to support collision avoidance and provide like the MPOS support. So there's somebody crewing this position at all times.
Okay.
If we're working with the helicopter, we can have a SAC, a shipboard air controller, located here, which is why there's an extra comm system here to be able to speak to the helicopter, so we can coordinate with the helicopter from here.
Okay.
Behind you, we have our CS&I workspaces. So on other ships, because they were designed before the age of computers, we didn't have any workspaces. But they actually decided to put in a bunch of extra workspaces on the ship, including in the ship's briefing room and other places, so that everybody has access to a computer almost at all times.
Okay.
And then over here is our briefing table. So we also use this as a briefing space as well. So when we close up for special sea duty men, before that we'll have a nav and seamanship brief in order to support like exiting and entering harbor, doing tow ops, razzing, flight ops, whatever. We'll brief from here. So the SEAL just sits there, and he has both of his team, all of his team lined up here in different chairs, and they will brief him accordingly for whatever the evolution that we're going to be conducting.
Okay. Wow. So, yeah. So this is actually really kind of like the hub of of the operation side of this ship.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice.
All right, so now we're entering the bridge. First thing you'll notice is very bright, and the second thing you'll notice is we don't actually really have bridge wings. Partially it's because when we're breaking ice, from what I understand, the best position to be located is here, or if we're coming alongside. So this area here kind of acts as our bridge wing, and our CO, when he's coming alongside, will actually pop his head out of this window here to take a look down the ship's side. You could drive the ship, kind of very similar to the MCDVs from our indoor bridge wings here, and also located on the other side. But our main helm console is actually just behind you over there. You can control the bow thruster from up here as well. So we'll usually have a helm, a throttles, and a bow thruster operator.
This is a beautiful, large bridge. Very, very unlike any of the other ships that are in the Navy at the moment.
And you know what the third thing everybody notices? Over here, we have a coffee machine on the bridge.
That's extremely important.
So that's critical.
Right, yes,
mission critical. You know, middle of the night at 2 in the morning when you're standing watch, in order to get a coffee and you know, get that caffeine fix, critical.
It's so important.
The other thing we have up here, this is our operator station for the 25 millimeter.
Okay.
So what we'll have is, if we close the 25 millimeter gun crew up, you'll have a bosun situated at this position here, and they'll be able to control the 25 millimeter gun, which is actually being worked on up on the forecastle there. This display here allows the operator to be able to toggle salvo sizes and all those sorts of things, but it also can have the EOIR camera, which is fitted on the gun, so that it can zoom in and look at what's being targeted at.
And you don't even need to shoot. You could just use that as another sensor.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. One of the other interesting things about this platform is the ice radar that we have on board. So it's actually not technically a radar. Some people prefer to call it a processor. It uses, I think it's the X band, not the S band, but it processes the data from that, and it enables the ship to have a better picture of the ice that's out there. So we can see leads that are going through the ice. Ice is notoriously hard to detect with radar, and so this processing power enables us to see where, you know, potentially an ice flow is versus where maybe some more mushy ice is, or like less old ice, because old ice normally piles up a bit higher, while newer ice is sometimes flatter, and so we'll be able to see and pick those routes better using our ice radar.
Right.
We have another one of our sensors which is new to this platform compared to others, the forward-looking echo sounder, the FLES.
Okay.
The FLES. So most echo sounders, straight up and down. And when I was on the MCDVs, when we went up to the Arctic, the first what we were told is about only 25% of the Arctic's charted to modern standards. And so there's a 10 miles offshore, there's a contour line for 10 meters, and then the next depth sounding was essentially the land. So you don't know between there'd be dragons, right? We don't know the depths. Right. And so on the MCDV, as we were creeping up, we could only see what was directly below us. And so we got to the 5 meter point with our echo sounder, and then we're like, okay, put down the anchor. Right. Put down the anchor. Our person who's watching the anchor is like, anchor's on the bottom. We're like, how do you know? He's like, well, I can see it. So there.
Right.
So the forward-looking echo sounder, the FLES, is designed to actually get you a projection ahead of you, which is much more important. This class of ship, which is its maneuverability is much less than an MCDV.
Sure.
So the stopping distance is much further, right. And so that FLES enables you to see what the depths are, 100 yards or whatever it is ahead of you.
Right.
Pretty critical.
Critically important.
Okay. And so that's.
And so this position here that we're looking at, this is actually the helm, right?
Yes.
So this is where you'd actually drive the ship, or a crew member would drive the ship.
I believe this here, is the the bow thruster.
That's the bow thruster, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess this is for the two engines here.
Yes. Yes. He was actually just in a meeting. He said he might be a couple minutes late. So.
And so, Steve, what we're looking at here is we're looking at the back end of the 25 millimeter cannon.
Yes.
So
they got it open. They're doing some maintenance on it in preparation because we'll be doing weapons team training and firing it during our workups en route to Hawaii.
okay, great. And so that is the largest caliber weapon that is on this ship.
Yes, we have two 50 cals as well, but they're located back aft.
Right. Okay. And so, in a typical day, how many people, or I guess on watch, how many people would be in this space?
So during normal operations, you'll have, I believe, a lookout, a helmsperson, normally a second officer watch, and possibly a navcom, depending on what we're doing.
Okay. And I guess, yeah, so this is kind of the forward portion of this bridge.
Yeah.
The back end here.
It's a little dark back here because we got the blackout curtains up, but it's the navcom desk here. So this is where they monitor all their the communications, UHF, HF, VHF.
Right. Okay. Excellent. And then obviously behind us was the coffee maker, the all
And-
important.
And there's also over here another CMS console, which is the same thing you saw in the MPOS.
Right. And as you mentioned, this is an unclassified CMS.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But lovely to have that
Yeah.
capability.
It's
right?
the same. Honestly, it's the same nuts and bolts. Just the processor, like the software on it, is unclassified.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
All right. We'll quickly take a quick look at the FDCR, and then I think the seal is ready.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey,
I
Coxon.
try one per floor or per deck. You know what I mean? So you have to go down 2 or 3 decks to have a.
So this is the FDCR, the flight deck control room. This is where our FLYCO will be stationed for flying stations. One of the interesting things about this platform that's new are the foam monitors. So we actually have 2 foam cannons to the left and right of here that can angle down and be used as a spray onto the flight deck with AFFF foam if there was a helicopter fire. So it's a little bit of added extra safety protection, and they're controlled by this nifty little joystick right here. So it's like playing a video game.
Yeah, right on.
Somebody got to actually trial this the other day, and I was really jealous.
And this is a beautiful view of the flight deck.
And then, yeah, the gun decks as well are to the left and right. That's where the 50 cals are.
Right. Okay. And so here, this is, as you mentioned, from down below when we were on the flight deck. That here is the 2 positions. So you'll have a
FLYCO sit here, and in theory, when we have an LSO embark, the LSO would sit here.
Right. Gotcha. Perfect.
The landing safety officer.
Right. And lovely large space and beautiful vision.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is the lifeboat here. It could fit, I think, 20 people in it. Goes only 5 knots. It's used in the Arctic for safety measures if we have to abandon ship. And we got 2 of them. All right, thanks Jody for coming. I hope you enjoyed your visit. This is probably the most comprehensive brief I've given to, or brief tour I've given to somebody who's come on the ship. I hope you learned a lot. and then I hope you get to share this with people that are interested in the RCN, and in particular the Harry DeWolf-class.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate you taking the time for us.
Welcome.